episode of Tech Tuesday. Did I start that too soon? I think maybe I did. First off, you might be wondering why I am all dressed up. I'm doing a keynote speech to a bunch of feet on the ground referral agents here in the Sacramento area in a couple hours, and so that's why it's dressed up. It feels a little weird, honestly, Kristy, because I don't think I've worn a tie in like 8 years, and I went to find a shirt. I don't usually wear white shirts. It's like, man, I hope I have one. I still have a couple. So, Kristy, welcome very much, and we're going to get started our conversation in just a minute. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Kristy, welcome. Let's start by talking about who you are and sort of a broad view of what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. First of all, you did throw me off with the tie and blazer. It's the first time I didn't wear a blazer specifically for you, number one. And number two, I did hear it was your birthday today. So happy birthday.
It is my birthday today. I am unequivocally officially old today. I turned 70. I don't feel 70. I don't feel old, but all the indications are that I'm well into senior citizenship.
Well, that's fantastic. And what a day to wear a tie and a blazer than on your 70th birthday. So I'm glad to be here to celebrate it with you. And I guess to talk about enhancing the resident experience and using tech to do so. So glad to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kristy Yoskey. I'm the VP and market leader at Point Click Care for our senior living division. A little bit about me, I guess, to start this off. I have spent probably just under 20 years. I'm almost at that 20-year mark in senior housing, that I'll be able to say 20 and stop at 20. So 19 years. I started off as an occupational therapist, believe it or not. I just did a podcast earlier today where I actually told my origin story about going to school for marine biology and somehow ended up in the senior housing space. So occupational therapy to a leader in regional with Genesis. And then in 2014, I ended up in value-based care of all things. From value-based care, I built consulting across senior living, SNF, and home health. And then really brought that passion over here into the software as a service space with Point Click Care and continue to use that passion with our senior housing folks to really kind of next level connect care and healthcare coordination and value-based care, which is a lot of fun as I found it.
So I'm actually really excited about talking about the resident experience, as a lot of my followers know, and I'm going to be talking actually about this a little bit in my keynote today. But as a lot of my followers know, I've been on this senior living consumer journey with my stepfather. We were in senior living for 60 days. It wasn't a very good experience. He's back home with us. At some point in time, he'll probably need to go to senior living again, and I know what I will do when that happens. It'll be a very different experience. But one of the things that really struck me as I would go visit him every day was often I'd walk by, I try to get him involved in life enrichment activities. Mm-hmm. And of course, the resident experience is more than just life enrichment, but so much of it wasn't. I looked at it and I thought, if that's me when I'm 85 or 90 years old, why don't you just shoot me now? Because I don't think my dream at 85 or 90 is going to be batting balloons around with pool noodles. So talk to me about how you see the resident experience and what a great resident experience means.
Yeah, it's a thoughtful question. I too am a caregiver. My father is 81 years old, and so I've lived the experience of in and out of care and different levels of care, both in the home and institutional. So It's a different experience on the other side. I think number one, I think we should acknowledge that. And then being an occupational therapist, you see it from the clinical care side as well. So when I think of wellness, I don't just think of activities and life enrichment. I think that's a definite huge piece of it. Lynn Katzman always says it best from a proactive standpoint. And I think it's Watermark's philosophy of mind, body, spirit, community. How do we connect really what's meaningful to the resident, really understanding a resident? And the only way to do that is to get to know them through really, in my thought process, is assessment and digitization, understanding and having a full digital record of what is going on with each resident and family member and understanding their full history. So we can have meaningful activities and meaningful spiritual wellness pieces that mean something to each resident. Having an activity just for the sake of an activity doesn't necessarily mean wellness. It has to have some significance to that particular resident for their history and for them to want to engage and connect with other residents. One of the best ones I've ever seen is really resident led. I don't know if that community that your stepfather was in had any resident led activities, but they tend to kind of go in groups where you build your own community and connection with other residents and go together off in. And it's sort of like high school in a way, which I didn't realize. I don't know if you saw that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that Kindle Corporation, they in all or most of their communities, their life enrichment is completely resident led.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference because you have two communities that are across the country or across the state, just different personalities. I used to do a little part-time teaching in high school, and I loved it. But the thing that really shocked me when I first started was from year to year, the classes had very different personalities, and the same thing is true in senior living.
Absolutely. I tried to do a wellness class at the one of the Sunrise locations, the Quadrangle in Haverford. It did not go over well. These folks were scholars and they wrote the books in the library, and they actually taught me the wellness class. So I sat in the wellness class where they taught me, and it hit me in that moment that I had wellness all wrong, that I really needed to better understand the resident before I even brought anything from a wellness or an engagement standpoint, because we're trying to really understand where everybody's at in time and space and help them engage. But you can't just have a balloon activity. Like, do you do that at home at any point in time other than when you're a toddler? And even if you're a toddler, are you really doing that? So it has to be meaningful, and it's almost vocational. I think it was Bob Kramer. It's like retirement is changing, and the way we look at really retirement and aging is changing. And so we've got to refocus the way we look at aging and the way we're doing things like wellness and activities, and put it in the hands of the residents. What are they looking for? What's meaningful?
So one of the things I wanted to actually back up here a second, because I'm a little bit confused. So here you are, you're with PCC, you're this technology company. Why are you talking about life enrichment?
The biggest piece from a point-click care standpoint is we're building a connected care network. And to do that, it's all about health and wellness. And it's not just about life enrichment. It's about healthcare coordination and connecting really from move-in to assessment to tasks at hand to a frontline staff to that resident and family member, and back to coordinating healthcare with the physician, the pharmacy, the therapy company, or the home health or the home care agency, and then back to that resident or family member so we can have a better conversation about what's going on and keeping them engaging and aging in place so they're well and they're not going out to the hospital. So for me, as an occupational therapist, this was like my dream job, because I'm coming here and really elevating point-click care to the level that they're already going to in the state of healthcare coordination and value-based care. And that's really when Travis Palmquist said, hey, this job is open. Are you interested? I said, heck yeah, I'm on my way. And Murray Mercier, the two of us, I mean, it's a dream team. And now we've added Marty Damien to the mix from Sunrise and Sun Health. And it's been honestly a dream to be able to operationalize using a platform like Point Click Care in senior living, because a lot of our clinical operators don't use it to its full capacity to really understand the full clinical picture of a resident, their needs, their likes, and what they need. And then to be able to put all of that in the hands of a frontline caregiver, deliver care, use tech less, use it when you need it, go deliver that care, and then have the documentation to be able to have an informed discussion with a resident or family or caregiver. It's a no-brainer. To me, if we could look at outcomes of a full healthcare coordination program with third-party partners, we can increase length of stay, decrease hospitalizations, and look at how our third-party partners are performing. That's a win.
It absolutely is. So let's dive a little bit deeper in. So I'm going to step back and start by saying that as I look at technology, a big fan of technology. I'm a big fan of AI. I'm hoping we can maybe touch a little bit on how you're seeing AI in this equation. But one of the challenges that everybody has is that they don't have enough money, they don't have enough time. And as you know, we've talked about, and I know one of the things you guys are really focused on is being able to do more with less. And technology is sort of a first line, obvious way to do that. So I'd love to hear a little bit more. I'm going to sort of throw two questions at you and see whether you want to answer them separately or mix them together. But the first question is how do you sort of approach this whole holistic use of technology to allow people to do people stuff better, and technology to do the stuff that people can't do very well or drudgery? And then maybe the big dream, if you could go in and design this quality of life technology suite in terms of how it was used in a community, what would that look like?
Wow. I mean,
you're speaking big questions, I know.
Yeah. Huge questions. You're speaking my language. So everything we have today at Point Click Care, we're looking to look at speed, connection, and confidence for our frontline staff, right? Do it efficiently, have the confidence that you're doing the right thing, and build a connection so you can put that technology down and go work with your resident. Same thing as we build anything with our future, we're looking to elevate. I think the first time you and I kind of ran into each other was at Argentum right after I started. And I said, I'm trying to challenge the status quo. And you were like, yes, love that.
Right.
We're really enhancing and elevating our foundations in senior living. So we've really built a great business on the SNF side. We've done a really great job on senior living, and we've got an excellent platform that meets a lot of needs, but we could be more intuitive. We could be a little bit quicker on implementation. But what we find is Point Click Care is widely known, widely used. We're an excellent clinical platform, and we've got this connected care ecosystem that allows us to have, information at our fingertips. So what we're doing is continuing to enhance our foundations at the start to make things quicker, more efficient, more intuitive, give our nurses, wellness nurses, frontline staff the confidence to do the job that they need to do, hands down. Right now, I know our solution consulting team, like Marty Damien and Murray Mercier, who you've had on the show, both of them, they're working on really focused to operationalize our platform, because a lot of our clinical operators don't use our platform to its utmost the way it should be used. And I know we'll get into some of the more specifics of what that is, but having our frontline staff have to walk back and forth without having a digital record to look for phone numbers and likes and dislikes and things that they need for the resident care is inefficient. I think it was Marty who said walking back to get the binder and go through at the nurse's station. But to be able to have it in your palm of your hand and be able to make an informed decision and have a connection with the resident in real time rather than wait is quicker and more efficient. and deliver that care in real time is better. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And we've done that with our real-time service planning and having an app made in partnership with Apple called Companion to be able to leverage ADL tasks and document within 30 seconds. New aide walks in, new frontline staff, they pick that up, they learn it and document very, very quickly. It's pretty intuitive, and they move on with their day. They've got job satisfaction because they know what to do. I think that's number one, having information at your fingertips. One more piece before I answer wider or toss it back to you. We've also looked at knowing that 87% of assisted livings have struggle with staff and staffing. We've partnered with Employ to bring in automation for recruiting, onboarding, and scheduling so that our senior housing, both in SNF and senior living, can leverage that automation to recruit candidates faster and get them to sign on before they take another opportunity. And I think that does reduce some of the overhead and bring that staffing in as well. So I know I've said a lot, and I know I have a second part, so I want to stop there.
Yeah, so let me ask a couple questions about the first part. I thought I was going to let you go, but I have a question. So I'd actually like to have you walk me through what this looks like from a caregiver standpoint. And let me tell you where sort of give you some context. A few months ago, I had to take my stepfather, who's 91 years old, to the doctor because I think he had an infection or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And the physician we were seeing was a new physician. It was, not an emergency room emergency, but it was urgent enough that we needed to get in. And so we go in and we sit down, and the doctor fires up this Epic tool, and he's sitting there scrolling through. And somebody who's 91 years old has a lot of medical records, right? And I think he did probably an okay job of picking up the stuff, but he could have missed something really, really important. And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking, so a caregiver gets assigned 6 or 8 patient residents for a day to work on, or I don't know what the right number is, but whatever number. And maybe they've worked with these residents, have some idea, but maybe they haven't. So can they just pick up a device like this and sort of get a high level view and then have tasks? How does that all work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when someone moves in, you probably have multiple assessments happening. You've got activities or life enrichment assessments that are going to talk a little bit more about likes, dislikes, and wants and needs from that perspective. And I think that's really important, especially if you have, especially somebody who requires additional attention on maybe a locked unit, persons with dementia, those types of things. Who need a little bit more care. And then you're going to have somebody with a service plan who have service tasks, what they need additional help with, medications, those kinds of things, ADLs, help in the apartment, things like that. So if I'm a frontline staff, a med tech, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be able to look at any notes, communications from the previous shift, previous day, any tidbits from that resident, medications if I'm the med tech or the nurse, or I'm going to be able to look at the tasks if I'm working on ADLs or things that I need to accomplish for that resident for that day. The big thing is we're not leaving sticky notes in the past, like we used to have to do, sticky notes and go find the sticky notes and read off those. We're looking at that straight from the companion app to kind of sort of pass information from shift to shift, caregiver to caregiver. And then I'm seeing that at the beginning of my shift, the middle of my shift, and then before I really walk into that apartment or unit to go see that resident, especially if it's morning, and then I look and maybe go in midday or later in the afternoon, and then, evening, depending on the time of the day. So it's giving me real-time information as things change and as we're communicating back and forth, whether we're using secure conversations, back and forth to staff. We may have had a physician come in and a physician left a note. So now I've got additional information, but that's all going to be right there on my app.
Oh man, that's so good, because I think about even when I look at my own healthcare record, and that's all in the system, but it's really hard to find. And so this idea that you could just pick up this device and look at it, and everything you need to know is right there. That is terrific. Okay, so let's go back to my question. what's sort of the dream system, technology system look like today? And I know that whatever you describe today in a year will be half obsolete probably because we're changing so fast, but for today.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I think that scares a lot of people is our AI, period. And I think AI in healthcare is what scares people, not necessarily AI in general. But we see a lot from AI with insurance denying claims. And that's tough, right? AI needs a human. You need a human element. And as an occupational therapist, what I need AI to do is summarize, give me the details so I can look at it from a lens, a clinical lens, and then make an informed decision. Do the legwork for me to pull that information. Let me see it. Let me make an informed decision, and with confidence, move in sort of speed to make that care happen for my resident. And so I think for us, number one, we would like to see our tech follow the resident, not the level of care. So you're sort of, no matter where you are, your dollars, your entire plan of care is sort of following you. So we can see across the continuum from IL, if you're moving through the continuum to AL, potentially in the skilled nursing. We see that as a potential opportunity with our Point Click Care Connect Care Quality Network, our ecosystem. And then we see the vision of that healthcare coordination connecting those third party physician. So we've got our own EHR for practice groups, so physician, and we connect other practice group setting electronic health records into our system, pharmacy connected directly into senior living, therapy, home health, home care, all connected with artificial intelligence scanning and giving us insights of how our partners are doing, how well our communities are, and how well our residents are, so we can make better informed decisions to predict, based off of frailty, mortality, and wellness, how our residents are and how our overall programs and workflows are doing, period.
So I love this. One of the comments that came in is that AI is not to be in healthcare is not to be trusted. And I would like to have, I know that this is a big concern.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
going to confess that I probably trust it more than most. So I maybe I'm the person commenting may think I'm a little naive, and I just loved it. But I think that it's a real question that people have, and so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
We are looking at responsible AI, so you have to have a human element to AI. AI is to do the job of routine pieces of pulling information to the front, where it's sort of routine tasks of gathering the information for the human to review and do the clinical work. So, for instance, if I'm on the SNF side right now, we have our nursing documentation. We can start typing and AI can start finishing the sentence, and we can hit the tab button and that can finish the sentence for us. But it's the human who's the nurse who's looking at that and saying, yep, that makes sense. I agree with that statement and I'm checking that off. You can automate from an infection perspective. You could look at, hey, AI has pulled up, this person had a fever and now they've got another symptom. There's a possible infection here. And now I've got to go assess and see, is there maybe an infection? And now that I've assessed, I've got the physician involved, and then that physician is making a diagnosis, not the AI. So there's a human element and being really responsible. And I think that's where Point Click Care is. We want to leverage it. We are leveraging it, especially in our return to hospital predictive analytics to give us data pulling and saying, hey, this is a risk, especially with analytics. And then there's a lot around helping us just be more effective and efficient in pulling data and finishing work. But there's got to be a human element to it for sure in healthcare.
Yeah, that's how I see it. Is I think that one of the biggest benefits of AI is that it can say, hey, we see this thing that might be going on. You as a human need to go look at that and see whether this is a problem, because I could be wrong. But we know, for instance, we know that AI is actually better than at reading X-rays than human beings are, which is a little bit scary. But we also know that they can get it wrong, and that's why you need both of those things. So I like that a lot. So I want to actually talk about where families fit into all this communication ecosystem. Again, that I've walked the senior living journey with my stepfather, and one of the things that was incredibly frustrating was that I never knew what was going on.
Yeah.
I got a call from him one day that he was having some pain, and so I called the community, couldn't get a hold of anybody. Got there, turned out that he'd been there 3 weeks, never had a shower. Nobody had told me that he was refusing showers. I still don't know what was going on. And so I was just in the dark, and that makes me not trust the community. And so where do families fit into all this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, as a daughter of somebody who spends a lot of time at the VA, it's the same question. So I think from a technology standpoint, we have a connected care portal that our senior living and skilled nursing partners can turn on and activate as part of our platform. Some choose to, some choose not to, and that family responsible party power of attorney can log right in with access if given access and a login. Resident the same way, number one. Number two, tools to send out communication to save time when there's certain things. COVID was a big learning experience, I think, especially about communicating effectively and broadly to families when things were happening, because that was a scary time when families couldn't get in and we needed to communicate. So that, I think, brought on a lot of how technology could really help. So we adopted automated care messaging, which oftentimes when you're in a senior living community, it could take 10 to 17 hours, depending on how big you are, to communicate to all of those families when one thing is happening. Automated care messaging took that down to 5 minutes. Whether it's activities or life enrichment or something like COVID or flu or something like that going on in the community. And then you've got those one-offs. You've got a service plan and service plan changes. It's important for us that when you have a fully digitized record and you're doing with our clinical workflows real-time service planning, you're logging and using Companion, you're updating that with unscheduled tasks. So things that are not part of the service plan, you're documenting. So you can have a real conversation with a family member, responsible party, to say, hey, there's a change. Could you imagine having a conversation with a responsible party and saying there's a $1,000 a month change in your bill, and not having the backing of what care was actually provided for that $1,000 bill change? What
I love about this is the more I just think that the transparency thing is so significant. I remember my mom was in a small assisted living for about 8 months until she passed. And I remember getting a call that was very uncomfortable for the owner to say, look, I got to tell you, I don't know what it is. Both my mom and her husband don't seem to like bathing. They did when they were fully cognizant, but I know it's a common. And he said, I got to tell you, your mom, every time we even touch her, she just starts screaming and we're really struggling. But, there was so much communication going on back and forth that it was an easy conversation for me as a family member to have. And so I love this idea that you've got these tools to make that communication happen much, much faster. On my more recent journey, I walked in to see my stepfather to find that the community had been completely locked down because they had at least 20 cases of COVID in the building. And I had no idea about it until I walked through the door. And, legally, did they have to tell me? It's unclear to me whether legally. I just had to I have to say that it made me trust them less. And so much of this is not just legal, it's about trust.
It's trust. It's trust and transparency. And that's what we're trying to help with. We understand like staffing is low, there's challenges. And so, how can technology help so the trust and transparency can be there? And you don't have to have a family member walk in, right? And say, I didn't know this. You knew it because we have the process in place that's
Yeah.
efficient and it doesn't take 17 hours to let everybody know. It takes 5 minutes. So
Yep.
that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to continuously make it better. 2025, a lot is going to change with our foundations. 2026 and beyond, we're going to see those enhancements that we're talking about, which is really exciting. But resident experience, communication, extremely important.
So what I think I'm hearing, let me see if I can get this, if this analogy works. I was teaching some kids, and one of the exercises we did was to put together jigsaw puzzles this weekend, good rainy day activity. And to me, it's like the complete picture of what's going on with a resident and their experience in senior living and the families and the physicians and the pharmacy and all those externals is sort of like a jigsaw puzzle. And what's really happened in the past is maybe you've had that sort of outside framework that's all there. And then you got these puzzle pieces scattered all over, and you go look there and you go look there, and then you try to figure out what's really going on. And I think what you're describing is that you've taken this jigsaw puzzle and created a completed puzzle where I can see the big picture. Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you nailed it.
What else should I be asking you? We're about out of time. Have I missed anything that we need to touch on?
No, I just think, key takeaway for senior living, in my opinion, just a full, comprehensive and digital record gives us, right at the fingertips for our frontline staff to have all the information they need quickly, building that speed and confidence. For us, real-time service planning allows our staff to have the information they need, document what they're doing, document unscheduled tasks, which then helps us to refer to our preferred partners and have those accountable preferred partners identified. So we've got that healthcare coordination loop. And then by way of all of that, we've got outcomes, resident experience, aging in place, engaging in place, reduced hospitalizations, and increased length of stay is the hope there. Overall communication, transparency, and real confidence in the services that our teams are providing there in senior living. And that's one of my
well, and I think the other thing we sort of just touched on was that all the documentation by the caregivers gets done inside the app or inside the technology, right? Which means that they like their job better. It's easier, or less second guessing, or less waiting till the end of the shift and go, what did I do? So it's just a much better system. You need to be reaching out to Point Click Care and learning about what they're doing. This is the kind of thing that will transform your community. It'll make the experience for your team members, for your family members, for your residents better. Thank you so much for joining me. Hang on for just a couple minutes after we go off the air.
Thank you, Steve.